And a very good afternoon to you, wherever you may be across the world on Orns Pre-Match Live here on this Saturday. Yes, the lineups have just been released. I am Omar Moore, yours truly here, as we get ready to go on Orns Extra. Well, not Orns Extra, Orns Pre-Match Live here. And Watford taking on Stoke at the Bet 365, and the lineups have literally just been released. Backman in goal. It will be Wes Hoot. It will be Ryan Porteous. And it will be Jake Livermore making his first start as a Hornet, the veteran midfielder. Loser as well is in that lineup to start with. Ken Sema, Vakun Bio, TDB, Tom Deli Bashiru, Martins, Morris, and Andrews. Those are your starters here as we get ready to go for another edition of Watford Match Day. Of course, a very, very good day to you wherever you may be. It is, I think, a very exciting afternoon. We wonder how this game will obviously go as Watford looking to continue a good start to this season. I actually think that this is a very contestable game, a very well contested game. I think is going to be had today. A Stoke City side who are going to be absolutely buzzing to go in this one at the Bet 365, where they so far have made the place the fortress. They've won their first two league matches, or I should say, their first two matches there. They came flying out the traps in a 4-1 victory, and then they won 2-1 against West Bromwich Albion in a Carabao Cup match there. And the man who has starred for them is Vidi Gall, who scored 3 times already in those first 2 games. He has been outstanding. I think that this guy is going to be a very dangerous proposition for Watford today. So the Watford defense is going to have its hands full. I think this will be the first time, really, in this early going that the Watford defense gets tested against a player who is very, very ruthless. He scored twice in the opening game. And as I said, scored against West Bromwich Albion in the Carabao Cup. And then Stoke lost their game against Ipswich in game number 3 on the season. 2 championship games. They are 1 win and 1 defeat. And of course, they have advanced to the next round of the Carabao Cup. So it's really great to have you along here for the next 20, 25 minutes or so here on Orns Pre-Match Live. If you want to have a comment or two, don't forget you can type your name and your comment or your comments into the chat. What's your prediction on today? How do you think the game's going to end up? And of course, what do you think of those substitutes? I'm going to read those out to you right now. The subs today in goal, Ben Hamer. The subs continuing here. Tom Ince, named to the subs bench, named to the Watford squad on match day for the first time. And then you've got the likes of Kone. You've got the likes of Healy. Of course, Healy, we really would love to see more of. He's not figured so far in these championship games. He, of course, is coming off an ACL injury. That's not been said often enough by yours truly. Reece Healy, pardon me, Reece Healy is coming off a ACL injury, and it's still, of course, taking him time to get back. We wondered why it was that Val would not play Reece Healy in the game last week. Quite frankly, from the comments that I've been reading off of the Watford Observer and from Val in the Watford Observer, it's that Reece Healy needs a bit more time, a bit more confidence, etc., 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 coming off of an injury like that. And Val's not ready to rush him back in, and he has to be 100%. Those are the kinds of quotes that you could read from Val Ishmael during the course of this week in the Watford Observer. So the rest of those subs today for Stoke versus Watford at the Bet 365. Pollock will be also on that subs bench. Georgie Shekfatazda on that bench for Watford. Espria, he is on the bench. I thought he did really well, quite well, when he came in for the first time this season in the game last week. And then you've got Kayembe, and then you've got Collins. Those are your players as far as everything is concerned. Watford's bench, then, what do you think of that? Well, I think it's a bit thin. It's a bit thin for me because I think the Watford bench needs to be reinforced with some more players. I think that there's going to be maybe one or two more coming in, maybe three at max between now and September 1st, which is the transfer deadline window. Watford have got a lot of work to do there because we need a striker. We probably need another midfielder and another defender. You can't have too many of anyone when we're going into a long season like this. We've seen how injuries have been such a problem for Watford. One name that you did not see anywhere on that starting lineup or on the squad lineup for today's match is Jeremy Ngakia. He is obviously someone who has been evaluated today and has probably been not given the all clear. It's obvious he wasn't given the all clear. So he's still feeling that knock, or there is a precautionary measure being given to Jeremy Ngakia. Now, he got that injury, what, 2 weeks ago now? Almost 2 weeks ago. And obviously not fit enough to even make the team today. So that is where you're going with Jeremy Ngakia. Let me just read out this lineup one more time for you. It is Daniel Bachmann, Wesley Hood, Ryan Porteous, Jake Livermore gets the first start of his Watford campaign, his Watford, his Watford campaign, his Watford playing career. And then you've got Luza, Sema, Bio, Deli Bashiru, Martins, Morris, and Andrews. Those are starters. So we will see how things go today for Watford. I think Watford, the key for them this game, and as I've said this on the Orns Friday Focus, and by the way, again, it's great to have you here. Really is good to have you aboard here on Orns Prematch Live. I've got to tell you, I think that this is going to be a game where Watford are going to have to really endure a lot of pressure, a lot of sustained pressure. That crowd at the Bet 365 are going to be absolutely up for it. They are going to be raring to go. That crowd will be on top of Watford. And I think this Stoke team is going to give Watford a lot to think about today. And unlike last week, where there were a lot of mistakes by the goalkeeper in the new system that he has to still get used to, the one that Val is playing, I don't think that Daniel Bachmann can afford to make the kinds of mistakes that he made last week. In some ways at home as a goalkeeper, you can get away with it a little bit. All right there, Mr. Larkin. Nice to see you aboard, and thank you for being here. You can get away with it just a little bit, I think, at home as a goalkeeper, but you can't get away with these kinds of mistakes as a goalkeeper away from home. And especially in a rowdy, rabid atmosphere like the Bet 365 is going to be, I think, today, Daniel Bachmann is going to have to be a lot more careful. I think that's going to be a very tricky situation for him if he's not. And I think that with the kinds of players that Stoke has, I wouldn't try to be mucking about in your own box or outside your 18-yard box of anything. So this sweeper keeper system is going to be attacked furiously today by Stoke. That's the way I look at it. Now, I've just been asked by Mr. J. Larkin, J29, Mr. Larkin, has just asked me, what is my score prediction for today? And I think, and that's a very good question, this game is going to be tricky. I think that Watford are going to get a very late winner. That's my prediction. I do think that they are going to concede a goal for the first time in the championship this season. I know I hate to say that, but if we think that Watford are going to go 46 championship games without giving up a goal, we are sadly mistaken. So I think that this is going to be a 2-1 Watford win, but it's going to be a game that goes right down to the very last couple of kicks. That's what I think. Stoke are too dangerous. I don't think the Stoke are going to fail to score here, but, we'll see. I would love for that to happen, but I think they've got some players like Vidigal, who is absolutely on fire. 3 goals in 3, although 3 from his first 2. So I'll just read out what you've got to say here. It's great to have everybody aboard here on Orns Pre-Match Live before Stoke versus Watford today at the Bet 365. I wonder how many of you who will be tuning in or are tuning in are going to be up there at the Potters today to watch this game. Yeah, we will see about the limbs there, Larkin. We'll see about the limbs. We hope so. We would love that. We need to get back on winning ways. Dan asked this following question. Hi, Omar. Dan asks, enjoy your sensible coverage. Well, thank you very much, Dan. And I enjoy the fact that you are watching here on Orns Pre-Match Live before we get ready for the build-up. The build-up, we are involved in getting ready for the Stoke versus Watford match today up there in Staffordshire. Thank you very much, Dan. And Dan continues on. To what extent do you think Valerian is showing a preference for this set of players? Or, Dan continues on, is it that his options are limited in terms of switching things up? I think that's an excellent question. I do think that there is I think that Val is building up, if you will, a club. Forgive me for using that term, um, a club of players that he can trust, a club of players that everyone else in the squad can look at and say, here, this is the 11 I'm picking. You have to breach this 11. If you want to play football at the Vic and you're a member of the Watford men's first team, you're going to have to be able to you must be able to breach this 11. This lineup is the standard here. I think that's what he's doing, Dan, more so than the fact that, yes, the squad is pretty thin right now. And so his options are limited. I can see what you're saying there. But I do think that what he's trying to do is carve out an example that every player who walks through the door at the Vic in this men's first team is going to have to follow this example here. This is the gold standard, the gold standard. And I think that that is where he's going, Dan. I think that he is crafting a very specific lineup. He's streamlining things very particularly. He knows the strengths and weaknesses of this team that he's got, and he knows where to add. He and Ben Manga, I think, work together pretty darn well so far. And I think, Dan, he is streamlining this team to a very, very specific unit of players. And he wants to have a very strong, concentrated focus on how things are supposed to go. And this lot, this 11 are the standard that I think he is setting here. So that's a really good question. I mean, I do agree that definitely there's things that are limited at the minute, but I really think it's more about Val trying to hone an identity at this club with the players that he trusts in which to do that. And obviously he doesn't yet trust Reece Healy to do that. I mean, he's played him once in that Stevenage game, but he doesn't trust certain players to do that yet, or they're not ready yet. So that's where I would go in answering your question, Dan. Thank you very much for it here on Orns Pre-Match Live. It's got about 10 to 15 minutes to go before we move on and say goodbye, but still a few minutes to go. Invite others along, won't you please? Spread the word, won't you, about Orns Pre-Match Live here on YouTube, on the Orns WFC YouTube channel. We'll be live before most of these games this season, and it's obviously a real pleasure to have you aboard, fellow Watford supporters, to talk about the situation. What do you think of this lineup? I mean, this lineup to me, and I asked about it before, and I read it out before. You know, again, it looks really thin, doesn't it? It really does on paper. It looks like it lacks a little something. I mean, that's the way I feel about it. But again, we still do have a transfer window coming up. What do you think we need most of? And thank you very much indeed, Larkin J29. Be well and take care of yourself. Larkin J29 is up in Staffordshire to watch the game. Best of luck to you watching the game today there, Larkin J29. Thank you indeed for doing that. Larkin says he's going to be tuning in live on Instagram after the game. Thank you. I should mention that, by the way, as well. And thank you, Larkin. Have a good game today, mate. And be safe up there in Staffordshire to watch at the Bet 365. Larkin has just reminded me to tell you that every match on the championship matches that Watford do, I do two things. I do the Twitter Spaces, immediately after the final whistle, which I will be doing today on Twitter, or as it's called now, it's called X, I guess. But Twitter, we all know what it is. So on Twitter, right after Stoke versus Watford today, I will be doing the Orns post-match live. And of course, you go to Orns WFC for that on Twitter. That will be immediately after Stoke versus Watford. And then roughly half an hour after the end of the game, half an hour after the end of the game, I'll be on Orns Extra on Instagram Live at Orns WFC on Instagram. So please join me on both of those channels after the game is done at the Bet365 today. And of course, there is the podcast always that you can get on Spotify, Google, Apple, and other platforms, the Orns podcast. And of course, the 10-minute take that I do every match on the championship matches, at least for Watford, right there as well on YouTube, the Orns WFC YouTube channel, which you're watching right now. And thank you very much indeed for watching along here. We've got a few more minutes to talk about the match that's coming up, what we think about the match. Dan has chimed in again, and thank you, Dan, for your comments from before and the comment I'm reading. Interesting, says Dan. Thanks for the response, Omar. You're most welcome, Dan. Thank you for watching. Take and take care and be well, mate. And it's great to have you here watching. Personally, I am a Bio believer. So hope he scores his 3rd in 4 games today, says Dan. And I'm glad, Dan, that you've mentioned Bio, because again, I think he's a really pivotal figure today. I think he's going to score. I said that on the Friday Focus. I agree with you. Like you, I too am a Bio believer. I think there are a number of us who do think that he brings some cachet and brings a good work rate, which he does. He works very hard for the team, and I think there are some people who overlook that from a Watford persuasion. I think that Bio, if you really look at how he plays, he is no slouch. He does work very hard for the team in and out of possession. He tries to find the areas of the pitch where he can make space for himself to be available for the ball. He, I think, gets the width right. He gets the bandwidth right in the middle. He is a tireless runner. He is somebody who, is always looking for chances to score. He's always looking to be a team player. He is a team player. So, yeah, I'm hoping very much that he does score today. And I have actually a good feeling about the man coming good as he has, at least the first 2 games. I have a good feeling about Bio today. Like you, I like that term, Bio believer. Yeah, Dan, I think that Bio's going to have a game today where he gets on the score sheet for Watford. I think that this man has a lot more skill and ability and talent. I just don't think he's, been given enough of a chance by the fans. I mean, the fans, I think some fans at least, have been very frustrated by him because, yes, he's missed a number of chances, and it's understandable. Yeah, people are upset because he's not put enough goals behind past these goalkeepers. And I know people point to last week, a number of chances that he had. People point to the Stevenage game, a number of chances there, but he did get on the score sheet there. People point to the QPR game. Yes, he did score there too, but he could have had a hat-trick in the first half. But it's not for a lack of trying. See, this is the thing with Bio. If Bio was scoring but not really doing anything on the pitch and not having more chances, I would be a bit more concerned about him. I would. But Bio is scoring, and he's getting and creating a load of chances, and he is almost on the end of a lot of chances. So I'm actually very bullish on Bio. I think that it's going to only be a matter of time, Dan, before those near misses and missed one-on-ones become goals. I think that's going to happen. And I would much rather Bio start out like this, where he has missed a number of chances and still scored a couple of goals, than Bio start out with maybe 1 goal and no real sign of life. I mean, because strikers do go on confidence, strikers do go on feeling, strikers go on mentality. And I think it's less of the fact that Bio's not confident. I think it's less of that than it is someone who is not quite getting the timing right. And I think that is due to match sharpness. I do think that's due to just having a bit more application in front of goal. I think Bio's going to be okay. I really do. Now, I'll say this to you and anyone else watching, Dan, is that we are going to need more than what we've got. I mean, the simple fact is, as we all know this, Watford need an additional striker. They need a number 9. They need a genuine number 9. I would not call Bio a prototypical number 9. I do call him a very hard worker and a forward, but I don't call him a prototypical number 9. And quite frankly, there are not too many of them around that you can really go, whoa, let me rub my hands together. Oh, can't wait to see what he'll do. We'll find out with Bio. I think he'll score today, Dan. So let's hope for that. Keep our fingers crossed about Bio today. I think he's going to get up the score sheet. We'll see. Now, Watford, of course, would need an early start. I think it's nice to get an early start in these games, score early, as Watford have done in their games so far. Of course, they didn't score last week against Plymouth, but it would be lovely to get a goal to settle us down on the road and keep that crowd out of it. I think that's going to be a big key for Watford today, is to get this Bet365 crowd out of the game. And the way to do that is to score early. That's really the way. This is not going to be the 4-0 that it was last season. No, no, no. If you think that these Watford lads are going to go in there at the Bet365, as they did in day number 1 of Slaven Bilic's reign, and score 4, not against this lot. This is a different Stoke side. This is a Stoke side that, are going to give you some problems. They are. They're much more attack-minded this season than they were last. I really am concerned about this Vidigal guy. This guy, if Watford defenders are not on today, they can get punished. I mean, if Vidigal was in those 2 games, especially in the game against Plymouth, it would have been a very different story there last week. But this Vidigal is very dangerous. That's a player who is very quick and very, very clinical. So Watford, I'm sure, have been briefed on him, and we'll see. But we need another striker. There's no question about it. The strike force is very thin. Reece Healy, goodness knows when we're going to get to see him. It might be a while before we even see him start a match. Val seems to be saying that there's still a lot more that needs to be done. He's not quite there. It's his mental fitness on the pitch after an injury like this, trusting his body after an injury like this in real match conditions, that I think is going to be the big concern. And that might take some time. So fans of this club that we love are going to have to be a bit more patient with Reece Healy. That's what the overall lay of the land looks like if you're listening to what Val's been saying this week. So we'll see about how he rides out, but we need another striker. Watford are in the frame for that. We're looking for strikers. There have been various reports this week in the Watford Observer and in the Athletic with Adam Leventhal as far as that's concerned. Shamar Nicholson of Spartak Moscow is on the radar, and Sori Kaba is also on the radar as well. It is very, very hard to see where Watford are going to go, but we'll find out soon. Val wants a striker who's right for the club, a number 9 who's going to fit in with the personality for what he wants and have the aptitude to carry it out, and of course put the ball in the back of the net. And it's not only a striker that Watford are looking for, and there are other choices. I think there's that lad Dion, whatever his last name is, from what is it? It's not Bolton. It might be Derby County or Bolton or whomever, one of them 2 clubs that Watford may also have their eye on. There's a number of players that we're going to hear about in the next few days, but there's still 2 weeks of the window left. I think that the striker option has to be done first, and then we'll find out about fortifying other areas of the pitch. I do think we need another right back because, of course, we let go of Ferreira, didn't we, on a season-long loan? And now Jeremy Ngaka has missed now 2 games. We're going to need some reinforcement and right back. On the left-hand side, I think too, we've now still got Jamal Lewis out. He's still maybe a week or 2 away with a calf issue. And so there's an international break. If I had to put any money on this, and I'm not willing to do that, but if I were to put money on this with Jamal Lewis, who of course is the left back that's come here from Newcastle United, I think you're not going to see Jamal Lewis until after the international break. That's my feeling. Probably the first or second game back after the international break for Jamal Lewis. He has some kind of calf problem, according to Val. So that is an issue that they want to take tight, put cotton wool around that young man and see where he goes. So I expect that you'll see Jamal Lewis, who is at left back. I think he's expected to be competition, of course, for James Morris. I think you'll see Jamal Lewis coming in after the international break. That's my guess as far as he is concerned. Right, we're just 3 or 4 minutes away from wrapping up things here on Orns Pre-Match Live. Don't forget to join me on Twitter after the game, immediately after the game, on Orns WFC with YouTube, or not YouTube, with Orns Twitter Spaces. There's so many different platforms, aren't there? Orns Twitter Spaces right after the game, of course. So stay tuned on social media for Orns Extra as well, on Instagram at Orns WFC on Instagram as well. So don't forget to follow on both of those platforms. It's great to have you aboard here as we wrap things up. Once again, a reminder of the scoreline of the squad today, and you can tell me what you think the score is going to be. I said 2-1 to Watford, a late Watford winner, giving Watford the 3 points. That's my prediction. But here's the squad once again today, here going up to Stoke at the Bet 365. Here it is. Backman in goal. Wesley Hood is one of the 2 central defenders today. Of course, Ryan Porteous as well. And then, of course, you've got Jake Livermore. Sierralta not in this game. That is what you can take out. Sierralta has some kind of knock. So that's why Jake Livermore is starting. It just occurred to me that Sierralta is not in the lineup. And so that's why he's not even on the bench. So he's got a knock of some kind. I forgot what it was, whether it was a calf or some kind of issue that is going to keep him out of the lineup today. So we are missing Sierralta. What you do have in the place of Sierralta is a veteran with a lot of experience. I know some Watford fans have not been very impressed with Jake Livermore so far. He's had a limited amount of time. I think he's pretty sturdy. I think he's going to give you exactly what you really need. No muss, no fuss, but a veteran who I think settles things down. Dan says 1-1, the final score. Obviously, he says hoping for a Watford win today. Thank you, Dan, for that. As I continue to read out this lineup as well, a reminder, of course, Livermore is there today. Loser in midfield, along with TDB. That's really what you're looking at there as far as that's concerned. And then, of course, you're looking at that front line, aren't you? And, of course, the left side, we've got Morris, as you know, on that left side at left back. And then, of course, as I said, Bashiru and Deli Bashiru and, of course, Loser partnering in midfield. And then, of course, you've got the likes of Ken Sema doing his thing as well. Going forward, you've got Sema. You've got Martins on that left side. I believe he'll start on the left side. Sema will start on the right side. You will expect Val to shift things up today. I think he's going to make a couple of shifts in this game because I do think that this game is going to be played very differently, I think, as an away game than the rest have been played so far in the championship for Watford, because they played the first 2 at the Vic. And don't forget, you'll have Bio in the middle there in that front three. I think it's going to be a 4-3-3 to start with, but I do think that there are going to be a number of shifts today in this game. I do think that Val's going to have to switch things up. He loves to make subs pretty early. He loves to make subs, I think, in multiples. So don't be surprised if he makes 3 subs at once at the 50th minute. That's the kind of thing you can expect from Val. He will do it without hesitation. He'll take Martins off as he did last week. Martins, who I thought was electrifying last week. Long may that continue. So that's really what we're going here. I do want to thank each and every one of you who have watched this live feed today. Orns Extra. I keep saying Orns Extra, but it's Orns Pre-Match Live. You're doing so many different things before and after the game. Don't forget to follow, won't you please, on YouTube. Please subscribe to the Orns YouTube channel. That's Orns WFC here on YouTube. Thank you very much. Subscribe today, like the videos, like this video as well. It'd be greatly appreciated. And of course, on social media, on Twitter, Orns WFC. Follow there, won't you? And on Instagram at the very same address, Orns WFC. We'll be doing, of course, the Instagram live half an hour after the end of the game. And we will be doing a Orns Twitter space immediately after the final whistle of Stoke versus Watford today. That is it here for Orns Pre-Match Live. I want to thank you all for watching. And of course, in half an hour's time, just under, we will kick off at the Bet 365. Wherever you're watching this, whether you're watching this from Stoke, as one of the viewers was Mr. Larkin, thank you very much indeed for watching. And I'm Omar. And of course, the best of luck to Watford today. And you take care, everybody.